morning, I'm Pete Najarian. This is The Take on this hump day. Yes, we're already to Wednesday, and if you go all the way back to Monday, we actually dipped underneath 31,000 on the Dow. Boy, that's a long distance from where we are right now. There's no doubt about that. Yesterday, just an absolute, we started off strong, we continue to be strong, and we closed strong. And that's something that is definitely on the unusual category. But that ripping move to the upside, 2.5% by the Dow, 755 points yesterday. That's what we did. And we really did rip all day long and just continue to be on that pace, well above that 31,000, underneath 31,000 dip that we had on the previous session. But the NASDAQ really did stand out. It was up 3% yesterday as well, 350 points, a very nice big move to the upside. And I don't talk about it nearly enough, and it's my apology to all of you, but the Russell had a great day yesterday, 3.5% move for that index. That's a pretty monstrous move. But, you know, it's interesting because we have those kind of days, and then we have some other days where we're not seeing a whole lot with the Russell, but it's the big three. Yesterday, it was the big four, and the Russell definitely participating. We had volatility trading right around underneath that 25 level once again, 24.50. We seem like we've kind of found a little bit of a home there, at least for the moment. We'll see how long that lasts. The VXN, the volatility index of the NASDAQ, still well above 30, close to 31. That was something that I think still stands out. And then you look at the volumes yesterday. We have come back a little bit from, we jumped up to 42 million, then we were about 38 million, and now yesterday, just under 37 million. So got a little bit lighter, but every single sector finished in the green. And not only did every single sector finish in the green, but it was absolutely amazing. 7 of those sectors actually closed above 3% yesterday. It was just a broad buying of just about everything you could possibly imagine. As a matter of fact, it was tough to find very many things in the general market yesterday where you found stocks that were actually in the red. The majority, it seemed like almost everything in the green. Consumer discretion was strong. Technology, financials, materials, energy, industrials, all 3% moves to the upside or more. So just a magnificent performance. Then you look over at crude, that got back up towards 104, keeping a very close eye on that gas as well. Talk about that as far as what's going on today. Yesterday, a little bit of a pullback, but nothing big at all. The 2-year and the 10-year, not much to really say about those. You're still looking in about the same area. You've got the 10-year just around 3, right up or down from 3. And the 2-year a little bit better, somewhere close between, call it 3.18 and 3.24, somewhere in there. That seems to be kind of that very, very tight range that we're seeing, at least of late. We have seen some pretty dramatic moves also. As far as some of the movers, I said it was tough to find anything in negative. There was one, and it was a big one, and we all thought, wow, IBM is going to drag down the markets. IBM did not. As a matter of fact, didn't drag down the markets at all. It seemed like everybody just had a vision just past IBM. There was a few others in the healthcare world that weren't doing great. Bristol Myers, J&J, but it was IBM that was really in the deep, deep red yesterday, and that didn't have the usual influence that it would have on the Dow. Everything else just seemed to be ripping to the upside. Those cruise ships, Carnival Cruise had another great day. Caesars, going back, you know, we talk about what's going on pandemic. We also talk about China a lot of the time, what's opening up, what's not, some of the regulations that we've got. But it seems like we are getting past that just a little bit. People feeling a little bit more comfortable. Live Nation, one of those names that had a really, really solid day yesterday. Getting over to the semiconductors as well. Names like Marvell and NVIDIA and AMD. NVIDIA back up in that range somewhere close to 170. You also had Netflix running into earnings. We had those earnings last night, had a little bump even higher. This morning, a little bit lower, and now starting to get back higher again. Just a lot of probably the interpretation of the earnings themselves. We'll get into that in just a second. We had Boeing, we had Goldman Sachs, Disney, all those names had a really, really nice performance yesterday. Goldman Sachs has just been on fire of late. It was well underneath 300. Now it's kind of finding itself moving higher and higher. It's past that level that we were talking about a couple of months ago when I really liked it, when it was right around that 312 level. 312 is about where it would be in terms of 1 times book value. And so that was sort of that critical area for me. Been selling calls against it ever since. We've had some great volatility, had some great premiums in that name as well. So that's been a a really, really fun trade. So you get into today, very, very quiet relative to that big move that we had yesterday. We're not seeing a huge pullback. We were just in negative territory a little bit, but hardly worth talking about. We were down about 50 points, down about 12 points for the NASDAQ in the pre-market. And then we started to move up a little bit. And then we made a little bit better move after we got into the open and we got ourselves into positive territory for the NASDAQ. On the other hand, you're looking at the Dow, and the Dow's kind of struggling, down about 60 or 70, then about 100, then about 150, 170, 180, somewhere in that range. But last I looked, it was down about 150 points, and we were up almost 90 points for the NASDAQ. So seeing a pretty decent disparity there. We're not moving like we were. I mentioned crude was 104 yesterday, right around that 102 level today. The 2-year, 10-year, let's not even talk about it. Not a whole lot going on there. I did mention natural gas. Keep an eye on this one, up about 3% today, up near 7.5. It's been kind of quietly moving higher and higher and higher. Not hearing anybody talking about this one. Everybody's looking at crude, but keep an eye on natural gas as well. That's had a pretty interesting move. What's not moving is the volatility index. It is planted right there once again. Call it 24.5. Tell you another one that's been moving, and if you took your eye off the ball, you've missed this run because it's been a pretty extraordinary run. How about this Bitcoin? Bitcoin was well underneath 20,000 not too terribly long ago, not too many sessions trading ago, but started to make a move. We got over 20,000. We got over 21,000, 22,000. Today, actually breached over 24,000 for a moment, and we might even be right about that level right now. It was up about 8% when it made that move over 24,000. So a pretty dramatic move there. Netflix was the story of the day, no doubt about it. Everybody got those earnings last night. Looking for 2 million subs to lose. They only lost about 970. It's one of those where it's still terrible, but not nearly as terrible as what was expected. Those sub losses were something they had low expectations. They beat some of those low expectations. So everything got adjusted down. But nonetheless, last night we had a big move to the upside. Today we had a little bit of a pullback. And now, last I looked, it was starting to move once again to the upside. Pretty substantially, actually, as well. That 22-year lows for mortgages certainly does stand out for a lot of folks in terms of that demand, the applicants and so forth. That was something that definitely stands out. Diana Olick talking a lot about that today as well. That's something that I think is something we don't want to take our eyes off of that. We look at the 2-year and the 10-year. Those 30-year mortgage rates and those applications are certainly very important as well. Consumer discretion. It started off the day up a little bit, and it continued to move up a little bit higher. When you look at most of the sectors early on, they really were not moving too far up or down from where they were last night. There are a couple of exceptions out there. Energy was down about 0.5%. Then the last I looked, it was down about 1%. Healthcare down about 0.5%. It was down about 0.8%. But when you look over and why is the NASDAQ moving so well, we didn't start off all that strong for technology. We started to get a little bit better. And last I looked, we're up about 0.75% to the upside for tech. So we are seeing a little bit of what is really kind of driving these markets for the NASDAQ and driving down the markets for the Dow itself, with healthcare and some of those names definitely being a part of that. We had the NASDAQ itself having a really good day. The stock, that's NDAQ. We also have Las Vegas Sands. We have names like Freeport-McMoRan, Datadog, DocuSign, Zoom. We have Moderna. We have Salesforce, all in positive territory. Keep an eye on that Salesforce. Quietly making some moves of late that are pretty interesting. Making moves that are not interesting, but definitely, especially if you're a holder of it, Baker Hughes. Now, they came out, they talked about a lot of different things. One of those was the supply, not the constraints this time, but the inflation for some of those supply products. Definitely weighing on the stock, getting beat up pretty good today. We also have some in the healthcare area. We've got names like Biogen, AstraZeneca. We've got Abbott Labs, all in negative territory. Semiconductors, a little bit weak early on. We've had a nice run out of semis if you've been following. John and I were talking about this the other day on the Rebel's Edge. I encourage you to watch that. We are going to expand how many days we're doing that. We might even shift around those times. We will keep you posted on that. But really excited about how that's been embraced by a lot of folks. We love the Rebel Edge. It's been a lot of fun. We'll continue to keep you updated on what we're doing there. But talked about chips and how July has been a complete reversal from everything that we have seen out of the SMH that was occurring in June. In June, all down. July, all up. It's been a really big ride, pulling back a little bit after some big jumps yesterday. Just take a look at a couple of those names, Microchip and Intel and NXPI and Micron and some of those names. Just keep an eye. Nothing huge, but just obviously we've had a pretty substantial run in the month of July. United Health also had a big run, not too terribly far away from those highs post-earnings. Didn't quite get up there, but today having a little bit of a pullback as well because of probably what we're seeing across the board in some of those healthcare names. Got two unusuals. We're out of here. One of them is a repeat from yesterday. I'm going to give you that one first. NKLA. Now, we talked about this yesterday. Stock was trading around 560. They bought 39,900 calls out there yesterday. Back again today. We've got a buyer. Stock's a little bit higher. It's about 15 cents higher than it was yesterday at this time. The stock was trading today at about 575-ish, somewhere in that category. 20,000 of the August 7.5 calls getting bought. It's kind of complex. I won't even mention the other side of that trade, but focus really on the August 7.5 calls that were being bought for 23 cents. Pretty interesting to see that 2 days in a row for NKLA. We'll find out a lot more. We've got a couple of things going on in the future in terms of news, earnings, and that type of thing. Keep an eye on that name. Certainly has been very active the last couple of days. Secondly, this one, it stood out for me because I hadn't seen it in a long time, so that made it unusual. What's not unusual is this is expiring on Friday. So you've got today, tomorrow, and Friday for these to actually pan out. And we're looking for a pretty substantial move in SNAP. Now, SNAP trading right around 15, almost 5,000, 4,900 of the July 22nd expiring. Those are Friday, 17.5 calls. Looking to go up pretty substantially from here over the next couple of trading sessions. Those are going for about 45 cents. Not terribly expensive, but understand how short-term this trade is. They're not going out to next week, the 29th. They're not going out to August. These expire on Friday. Always be aware of those. You got to understand those expirations. But this is something that's been very common of late. We're starting to see more and more of this again where we're seeing, and I talked about this last night with Ryan Mastro. Got a chance to talk or check out that video that we were doing last night. We were talking about a lot of things that are usual and unusual, and some of the unusual came back to being usual, which is a lot of the unusual option activity. We are seeing very short term once again. This is one of those names. Folks, have a great day of trading. Should be a really wild ride. We got earnings out the wazoo coming at you at the end of the day. Keep an eye on that and tomorrow and the rest of the week and understand these options. Please have that understanding before you jump in. You want to know what you're doing. Get educated. Definitely, it's very important. Have a great day of trading.